Download and upload more than ever before with an ultra-fast fiber connection. With 3 simple steps, you can be the one with an SLT fiber optic connection. Visit slt.lk.
Restructuring in process. Debt-ridden national carrier Sri Lankan Airlines to be gazetted under the purview of State Minister of Finance.
Because I think it is a vanity project which Sri Lanka could hardly afford.
Not defeated. Expenditure head of the President passed in Parliament without a vote. Human rights commitments. The core group calls on Sri Lanka to fully implement the measures identified in UNHRC Resolution 30/1. Possible alliance. SLFP and SLPP to begin discussions on the upcoming presidential election. All this and much more coming up tonight on Wednesday, the 13th of March, 2019.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Well, a very good evening and welcome to First at 9 on AdaDerana 24, Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Katharina Chang. Now, starting off with your top story tonight. Minister of Finance Mangala Samaraweera revealed that the debt-ridden national carrier Sri Lankan Airlines will be gazetted under State Minister of Finance Eran Wickramaratne this week. The minister, who was responding to a question raised during a media briefing in Colombo today, called Sri Lankan Airlines a vanity project that Sri Lanka can hardly afford. Meanwhile, offering clarification on the date of the imposition of the luxury tax, the minister said that the vehicle taxes introduced in the budget will only apply to LCs opened on March 6th or after.
The vehicle taxes introduced in the budget will only apply to LCs opened on March 6th or after. Condominium subject to VAT after April 29. The exemption for sales and purchase agreements signed before April 2019. Agreements need to be in a legal notarized form. The primary change on vehicle taxes is the imposition of a luxury tax on very high-end vehicles, CIF import value of above 3.5 million. We have made a slight adjustment to the tax rates for non-luxury vehicles as well. The effective tax import value for such non-luxury vehicles will remain largely unchanged. NBT of 3.5% applies only to payments for goods or services outside Sri Lanka.
The minister, speaking on the impact of the Inland Revenue Act, stated that its results will be seen in the final quarter of this year.
The Inland Revenue figures will show our objective of achieving our goal of amending this ratio of, at the moment it's 82 to 18, which is one of the lowest in the world. Of course, it may not come to 60-40 in the next year or so. It will take about 3 years or more, but we are moving in the right direction.
The minister was also questioned on the restructuring of Sri Lankan Airlines.
Sri Lankan Airlines has now been gazetted under your ministry. What are your plans to turn around Sri Lankan Airlines?
I, of course, would sell it off immediately if I can, because I think it is a vanity project which Sri Lanka could hardly afford. I will be gazetting it under Honorable Eran Wickramaratne, my State Minister. This week I'll be gazetting it.
The fuel prices were increased from midnight last night in accordance to the fuel pricing formula introduced by the Ministry of Finance. Lanka Indian Oil Company, however, remains indecisive about price hikes.
According to the fuel pricing formula introduced by the Ministry of Finance, the price of fuel is amended on 10th of every month, according to which the prices of fuel was increased from midnight last night. The price of a litre of 92-octane petrol has been increased by 3 rupees, bringing the new price to 132 rupees. Meanwhile, the price of 95-octane petrol saw an increase of 7 rupees, which rose from 152 rupees to 159 rupees per litre. The price of auto diesel was increased by 1 rupee, making it 104 rupees per litre, while the price of super diesel was increased by 8 rupees, revising it to 134 rupees. In the meantime, long queues were seen near fuel stations last night following the announcement of the price hike. However, it is reported that Lanka IOC remained indecisive about increasing its fuel prices.
The third reading of the budget for the year 2019, or the committee stage debate on the budget, took place in Parliament today. Expenditure heads for 25 state institutions, including the President and Prime Minister's office, were passed without a vote. The expenditure head of the President was passed without being taken up for a vote, although UMP backbencher Chaminda Vijayasiri requested that a vote be called for over the particular expenditure head. The committee stage debate, or the third reading of the 2019 budget, took place in Parliament today. Expenditure heads for 25 state institutions, including the President, Prime Minister's office, Supreme Court judges, ministries, independent commissions, were taken up for debate.
දැන් මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ඇතුලේ අර්බුදයක්. TN එක ඡන්දෙ දුන්නේ නැත්නම් ගියා අය වැපරාදයි. TN එක ඡන්දෙ නොදුවි ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ ඉතුරු කට්ටියත් එක්ක ඉඳියා නම් ඒක බලා ගන්න තිබුණා. ආණ්ඩුව ඇතුලේ බරපතල අර්බුදයක්. පසුපෙළ මන්ත්‍රීවරු 30 දෙනෙක් ඡන්ද දෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා කියනවා. ඉදිරි පෙළ මන්ත්‍රීවරු කතා කරලා කියනවා නෑ අපි ඡන්ද දෙනවයි කියලා. තමුනාංශලගේ ආණ්ඩුව ඇතුලේ අර්බුදයක් නැද්ද? ඒ කියන්නේ අගමැතිවරයාගේ කට්ටිය ජනාධිපතිතුමා පරද්දනවා කියන්නේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදය. බොහොම ලස්සනයි. අපි බලාගෙන ඉන්නේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදය එලි දැක්වෙන තෙක්. විධායකයි ව්‍යවස්ථාදායකයි අධිකරණය අතර ගැටුමක් තියෙනවා කියලා අපි පිළිගන්න ඕනේ. ඒ නිසා අපි කියන්නේ ඔබතුමාලා මේ තියෙන ගෙදර රණ්ඩුව නවත්ත ගන්න. ඊයේ කිව්වන්නේ මේ ආණ්ඩුව වටනවා කියලා. වටනවා නැහැ කිව්වන්නේ. ඔය අමාරුවනේ මෙතන තියෙන්නේ. වෙන එකක් නෙවෙයිනේ. අනික අහනවා TN එකේ ඡන්දෙ දුන්නද කියලා. ඉතින් ගිය සැරේ විශ්වාස භංගයටත් පරද්දන්න දුන්නා. මම එකයි අහන්නේ. මේකට විරුද්ධව 77ක් තිබුණා. මේ ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණේ 6 ඉවත් කරා නම් තමුන්නාන්සලා 71යි. අපෙන් අහනවා ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ වැසීස්සේ පරාජය කරන්න කියලා. ඇයි ඊයේදී තරහ වුණා නේද? මම නම් යෝජනා කරන්නේ මේක පරාජය කරන්න නෙමෙයි විපක්ෂ මිරිස් කුඩු ගැහුව මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ගෙන් රුපියල් 10 ගන්න කපන්න කියලා.
බැඳුම් කර ගනුදෙනුව මේ වර්තමාන ආණ්ඩුවට එල්ල වී තිබෙන බරපතල වංචා දූෂණ පිළිබඳ ගනුදෙනුව සමහර වාර්තා සහ සාධක මත ඉතා පැහැදිලිව අග්‍රාමාත්‍යවරයාගේ මැදිහත්වීම සහ මෙහෙවීම සහ අනුදැනුම මත සිදු වූ ගනුදෙනුව ඒක හංගන්න බෑ කාටවත් ආරක්ෂා කරන්න බෑ. ඒ ගනුදෙනුව පිළිබඳව සම්පූර්ණ වාර්තාවක් මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට අවශ්‍යයි. දැන් ජනාධිපතිවරයාට පුළුවන්ද අපේ රටේ බැඳුම් කර ගනුදෙනුව හරහා කෝටි ලක්ෂයක් වංචා සිදු වී තිබෙනවායි කිය ප්‍රකාශයක් කොට සිංකෙක් ගාවට ගිහලා අත හොදන්න පැත්තට යන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් ජනාධිපතිවරයාට අයිතියක් තිබෙනවා වගකීමක් තියෙනවා ඒක එළිදරව් කරන්න.
අද මම මේ වැය ශීර්ෂයට ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ වැය ශීර්ෂයට ආධාර කරලා මගේ ඡන්දය ප්‍රකාශ කරන්නේ නැහැ.
In the meantime, UMP backbencher Chaminda Vijayasiri requested for a vote over the expenditure head of the President. However, it was passed without a vote with the intervention of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and Leader of the House Lakshman Kiriyalla. The core group on Sri Lanka, headed by the United Kingdom, has presented their resolution on Sri Lanka to the ongoing 40th regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. These countries called on Sri Lanka to implement fully the measures identified by the UN Human Rights Council in its resolution 30/1 that are currently outstanding. This is in a backdrop where the World Patriotic Lankan Forum claims that the particular resolution had already been co-sponsored by Sri Lanka, with the signature of the Permanent Representative of Sri Lanka to the United Nations in Geneva, ALA Aziz. Members of the forum yesterday called on President Maithripala Sirisena to immediately intervene and take necessary action, citing that the document has been co-sponsored without the knowledge of the government. According to the Office of the Human Rights High Commissioner, Ambassador Aziz had signed the resolution 2 weeks ago.
The resolution, titled Promoting Reconciliation, Accountability and Human Rights in Sri Lanka by the core group on Sri Lanka comprising of Canada, Germany, Montenegro, North Macedonia, the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland, had been submitted to the 40th regular session of the UN Human Rights Council on Monday. In their resolution, the sponsors had commended the strong role played by the country's government institutions to peacefully resolve the political situation which arose from October to December last year. They also welcomed the establishment and implementation of the Office on Missing Persons. While noting its appreciation on releasing some military-occupied lands to civilians, these countries called on the government to fulfill its commitment by releasing all private lands occupied by the military. They also commended progress in fulfilling commitments towards the Sri Lanka co-sponsored UNHRC Resolution 30/1 by establishing the Office on Reparations as well as efforts towards setting up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The proposed repeal of Prevention of Terrorism Act and preparation of a draft Counter-Terrorism Act had been commended by the core group while reiterating to adopt a time-bound implementation strategy for the effort. The core group also appreciated the report presented by the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights at the ongoing session in Geneva, however requested the High Commissioner to continue to strengthen their advice and technical assistance on promotion and protection of human rights, truth, justice, reconciliation and accountability in Sri Lanka. They also requested the High Commissioner to assess progress on recommendations to Sri Lanka and present a written update to the 43rd session of the UNHRC along with a comprehensive report, followed by a discussion on the implementation of Resolution 30/1 at the 46th session.
President Maithripala Sirisena has appointed a committee of 5 members headed by Minister of Foreign Affairs Tilak Marapana to represent the government at the 40th regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. However, earlier this month, the head of state said that he would be sending only a delegation of 3 representatives to the ongoing UNHRC session to request the council to allow Sri Lanka to handle its own problems. And during the parliamentary session today, leader of the House Lakshman Kiriyalla questioned whether there will be a separate delegation as mentioned by the President.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs today announced that the 5-member committee will be headed by Minister of Foreign Affairs Tilak Marapana and will comprise of parliamentarians Dr. Sarath Amunugama, Northern Province Governor Suren Raghavan, Secretary to the Foreign Ministry Ravinatha Ariyasinghe and Deputy Solicitor General Nerin Pulle. President Maithripala Sirisena had taken the decision to appoint the committee after considering the report of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights on promoting reconciliation, accountability and human rights in Sri Lanka that is to be presented at the session on the 20th of March. However, during the parliamentary session today, parliamentarian M.A. Sumandiran questioned the President's statement earlier this month on sending a 3-member delegation to the ongoing UNHRC sessions.
The announcement by His Excellency the President that he intends sending 3 members to represent himself, and then the counter to that from the Prime Ministers and the Foreign Ministers' officers, stating clearly that they would co-sponsor a new resolution at the Human Rights Council session this year.
ඇත්තවශයෙන්ම ජනාධිපතිතුමා නියෝජනය කරමින් වෙනම කණ්ඩායමක් යනවාද කියලා මම මහින්ද සමරසිංහ මැතිතුමාගෙන් අහන්න කැමතියි.
මම ඒකට උත්තරයක් දෙන්න මෙතුමාගෙන් පස්සේ කතා කරන්නේ මම. ඒකට මගේ
එහෙම බෑ.
නෑ මගේ කතාවේ මම උත්තරයක් දෙන්න. ඔබතුමා කියන වෙලාවල වලට මට කරන්න බෑ ඒක. මගේ කතාවේ මම ඒක කියන්නම්.
I think that it would be improper for any of these monies to be utilized for the President to be sending unofficial delegations to personally represent him to a bilateral body like the UN Human Rights Council, and that such expenditure should be disallowed by Parliament.
එක්සත් ජාතීන්ගේ මානව හිමිකම් කවුන්සිලේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාව සම අනුග්‍රහය දක්වන යෝජනාවක් ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙනවා. මම අහන්නේ ඇයි මේ යෝජනාව වෙනස් කරන්න යන්නේ කියලා. පසුගිය අවුරුදු 3-4 ඇති වෙලා තියෙන ප්‍රගතිය අපි මේක තව තවත් දියුණු කරන්න ඕන.
ජනාධිපතිවරයාට ඕනම කෙනෙක් ජනාධිපතිවරයාගේ විශේෂ නියෝජිතයෙක් හැටියට එවන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක තාහන්තියක් නැහැ. 20 වෙනිදා එනවා අවුරුදු 2ක් තිස්සේ මානව හිමිකම් කවුන්සිලේ පිළියෙල කරපු පුළුල් වාර්තාව තමයි ඉස්සෙල්ලාම ගන්නෙ. එතකොට 20 වෙනිදා තිලක් මාරපන අපේ විදේශ කටයුතු ඇමතුමා සමස්ත රජය වෙනුවෙන් රට වෙනුවෙන් එතුමා ප්‍රකාශයක් කරන්න දැන් ලෑස්ති වෙනවා. ඒක තමයි ඊයේ ගත තීරණය. දැනට ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙන පුළුල් වාර්තාවේ හැම දෙයක්ම අපිට පිළිගන්නත් බෑ. සමානුග්‍රහය දීලා ඒක කියන්නේ නැතුව ඉන්න ඕනේ කියන නීතියක් නැහැ. මම යෝජනා කරන්නේ ජනාධිපතිතුමාට අපේ සරත් අමනුගම මන්තුමාලා අපේ තිලක් මාරපන ඇමතුමාලා ගිහිල්ලා ආවට පස්සේ කොමිටුවක් පත් කරලා දැන් මේ ඉඳලම ලෑස්ති වෙන්න. ඒ කරන්න තියෙන වැඩ කොටස කරන්න.
Leader of the opposition Mahinda Rajapakse expressed disappointment over the absence of a group of Sri Lanka Freedom Party members when the second reading of the budget was taken up for voting yesterday. The opposition leader aired his views responding to questions raised by journalists yesterday.
Leader of the opposition Mahinda Rajapakse attended the screening of Ginnen Upan Sitala, a newly released movie directed by Anuruddha Jayasinghe at the Tarangani Hall in the National Film Corporation yesterday.
සම්මතුන දෙවන වර කියවීම ඉදිරි අනාගතයේ කොහොම බලපායිද?
බොහොම භයානකයි. මම හිතනවා මේකේ බලපෑම ඉස්සරහට තියෙවි මිනිසුන්ට දැනෙයි යඟට දැනෙයි. ඉතින් මේකේ කනගාටුම දායක තත්ත්වය තමයි ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ කොටසක් ඡන්දේ නොදී ගියා.
තාලින් කියන්නේ යෝජනාවස්ස ලංකාව සමානුග්‍රහය ලබදුනොත් එහෙම
ඒක ඊටාම දරුණු ලෙස අපිට බලපානවා අනිවාර්යයෙන්. රටේ වහාම ඒක නතර විය යුතුයි.
Meanwhile, a group representing the Muslim community in the Putlam district met with the opposition leader at his official residence at Rama this morning. During the discussion, the group drew the attention of the opposition leader on issues pertaining to the disposal of garbage in the area and urged for a solution in this regard.
This environmentally is going to be a big disaster, so we are going to sort it out this issue. We had a big discussion about it with this subject, so we are going to sort it out. We are going to have a big protest against this garbage issue in Golface on 19th Tuesday from 9 a.m. onwards. So we would like to welcome all the general public to save the city and save the nation.
National organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna, Rajapakse, says that discussions between the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna on the upcoming presidential election will begin from tomorrow. Addressing a media briefing in Colombo, former Minister Rajapakse also said that the candidacy for the presidential race is still vacant and a person who is capable of taking the party towards victory should be given the opportunity.
We will begin official discussions between SLPP and SLFP tomorrow. Our representatives are prepared to hold talks with an open mind.
President
Mahinda Rajapakse will name a suitable candidate. Our party is ready to work under his instructions whether the candidate is a Rajapakse or not.
අපේ පක්ෂය එතුමා කියන එකට වැඩ කරනවා. පොදු සම්දානයක් හදනවා කියලානේ මුලින්ම දැන් සාකච්ඡා තිබ්බේ. ඒතකොට මේ සම්දානයේ නිකන් හරි වත්මන් ජනාධිපතිතුමාව යෝජනා කරොත් මේ අපේ පොදු සම්දානය. ඔය දේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ මහින්ද ජනාධිපතිතුමා.
We will not mind if former President Mahinda Rajapakse in agreement. However, we are contesting for an election and therefore we have continued our journey forward with an individual who is capable of winning. We must appreciate the decision of Gotabaya Rajapakse to contest in the elections. Other leaders must inform us if they wish to do so. Then it will be easy for people to make their judgment.
Police fired tear gas and water cannons to disperse the protest launched by the Inter-University Students' Federation near Parliament Road this evening. The protesters cited several demands including the defeat of the Counter-Terrorism Act and abolishment of the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The protests commenced at 1 p.m. this afternoon from the premises of the University of Visual and Performing Arts in Colombo. The police fired tear gas and water cannons at the protesters who were attempting to march towards Parliament. In the meantime, the convener of the Inter-University Students' Federation, Mahil Bandara Dehideniya, was arrested by police. Meanwhile, teachers and principals in government schools launched a token strike over salary anomalies and several other demands today by going on sick leave. Ceylon Teachers Union General Secretary Joseph Starlin said that 30 trade unions joined or rendered their support this end. In addition to applying for sick leave today, teachers and principals also engaged in a protest opposite Fort Railway Station this morning. Attendance in a majority of schools in Colombo and suburbs showed a considerable decrease today. Meanwhile, the Education Ministry in a communique said it had already submitted a proposal with regard to rectifying salary anomalies to the Special Salaries Commission. The communique further noted that both teachers and principals were being misled by certain trade unions. Meanwhile, President Maithripala Sirisena left for Kenya today to attend the 4th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly in Nairobi, Kenya, as a special guest. The 4th session of the UN Environment Assembly, which commenced last Monday, will continue until the 15th of March in Nairobi under the theme Innovative Solutions for Environmental Challenges and Sustainable Consumption and Production. President Sirisena is scheduled to address the Assembly tomorrow. The sessions will address environmental challenges related to poverty and natural resources management, including sustainable food systems, food security and halting biodiversity loss, life cycle approaches to resource efficiency, energy, chemicals and waste management, and innovative sustainable business development at a time of rapid technological change. During his 4-day official visit to Kenya, President Sirisena will also meet the President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, as you know, the 6th batch of devotees who won the opportunity to participate in the Dhammadiva Vandana religious program organized by AdaDerana and Derana Media Network was flown to India last evening. They visited and paid their homage to a number of historical Buddhist religious sites in India during their last 5 days, and the group arrived in the Indian state of Bihar today. The pilgrims were facilitated to visit the hilly ranges of the Gijakuta, where once Lord Buddha had resided, and to pay homage at the Sugandhakuti Vihara temple there. They were later taken to the Veherapabhata area and Nalanda Bhikkhu monastery situated in the historical Rajgah city. The group will be arriving in Bodh Gaya tomorrow. And with that, we cross over to a short commercial break, but we have more news on the other side, so stay tuned.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is AdaDerana 24.
President of the National Chamber of Commerce, Asela Dilivera, says that the Chamber of Commerce welcomes the 2019 budget, highlighting that the proposals put forth in a short period of time was encouraging to the business community. Speaking at a media briefing today, Dilivera added that the economy should be export-driven if the government is to address issues surrounding its fiscal deficit.
Under this difficult economic and political situation in Sri Lanka, we think the government has done a very tight schedule, and it was very difficult for the government to get this budget in a very short time. We think that they have done sort of a very good job under these circumstances. When we take the proposals in the budget, as a nation at the moment, we have to keep on exporting. That is the main crux of the budget, that they have given emphasis. Why do FDIs come to Sri Lanka? The main thing is that the situation of this country on the main sea routes, as well as our human resources. Now, we have to draw the FDIs on these two aspects of the situation here, because our main plus point is the human resources of this country. We must create a market, and that is one of the main things that we should be able to do in this budget, and that will the people who do the industries or do the agricultural sector to get a market.
Now, Colombo is undergoing a transformation in infrastructure, and with the ongoing construction of the Colombo International Financial City, reports suggest that the demand for luxury apartments is expected to rise. In order to cater to this demand, Belluna Co. Japan, together with Asia Capital PLC, joined hands to launch its first luxury apartment project in Sri Lanka. Speaking to First at 9, director of Belluna Co. Japan, which has invested $450 million across several development projects in Sri Lanka, Hiroshi Yasuno expressed confidence in the investment climate of the country and says that they hope to expand to other sectors in the near future.
Belluna Co. Japan, listed in the Tokyo Stock Exchange, and Asia Capital PLC, held a media briefing today to announce its first venture in luxury apartment projects, 447 Luna Towers, located in the heart of Colombo. The 45-story project, consisting of 190 units, is scheduled for completion in 2020. Speaking exclusively to First at 9, director of Belluna Co. Japan, Hiroshi expressed confidence in the country's investment climate and said that the company has invested $450 million in various development projects across the country.
This project is for us the first project to develop in the Sri Lanka. We have trying to install the Japanese quality in that project. So we hope the people here and the other experts will be happy with that. We saw that the economic situation was the right timing to invest for us. That's why, for the first of all, within a year, it would much better and better. So that's what we are thinking. And also, obviously, in the fact, the number of the arrivals from other countries are increasing. So that also helps the economy to be recovered.
The Asia Price Index fell 0.71% to 5,606.96 today, to its lowest close since 9th of September in 2013. The benchmark stock index fell 1.63% last week, recording its third straight weekly fall, and declined 2.9% in February, its second straight monthly fall. The turnover was 270.2 million rupees, less than a third of last year's daily average of 834 million rupees. We now have Dimantha Matthew from First Capital Holdings with a brief report.
The negative liquidity position in the market is negatively affecting the local investors in the bond and equity markets. In the bond market, we saw selling interest in selected short and mid-term maturities, with the belly end of the yield curve experiencing a slight upward shift. In the bill auction, of course, we saw the 1-year T-bill slightly moving downwards compared to the previous week to end at 10.58%.
And with that, we cross over to a short commercial break, so make sure to stay tuned for more other news.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is AdaDerana 24.
Deepening the United Kingdom's worst political crisis for generations, Britain's Parliament rejected Prime Minister Theresa May's deal to quit the European Union for a second time, 17 days before the planned departure date. Lawmakers voted against May's amended Brexit deal by 391 to 242 as her last-minute talks with EU chiefs on Monday to assuage her critics' concerns ultimately proved fruitless. The vote puts the world's fifth largest economy in uncharted territory with no obvious way forward, exiting the EU without a deal, delaying the March 29 divorce date, a snap election, or even another referendum are also now possible. Theresa May said she profoundly regrets Parliament rejecting her amended withdrawal deal. Meanwhile, today, the British Parliament will vote on whether to leave the European Union without an agreement on the 29th of March, as the government said it would eliminate import tariffs on a wide range of goods in a no-deal Brexit scenario. The vote will take place at 1900 GMT today. Captain of the Sri Lanka women's cricket team, Rajapakse, says that the national women's side is looking forward to giving the reigning World Cup champions a competitive series, as they are all set to lock horns in the upcoming tour with England, which contains 3 one-day internationals and T20 internationals. Also speaking at the media briefing on the England's women's tour of Sri Lanka, captain of the English women's team, Heather Knight, is optimistic in adjusting to the conditions of Sri Lanka and is hopeful of starting the series with a victory against their name.
We're really excited for what the tour brings. We've just come straight from India, so it's the second leg of our trip to the subcontinent. We're delighted actually to be playing outside of Colombo as well. We've obviously had a lot of time to get used to the tracks. The conditions out here, which in Sri Lanka are generally quite similar to India. So we played brilliantly in those T20, probably still not quite at our best. So we've still got some areas that need a little bit of fine-tuning, areas for improvement, but hopefully we can start well on this trip.
We are delighted to have you here with us. We expect some scintillating cricket which both teams will try to match up to each other and do their best. So may I, on behalf of my committee, wish both teams success.
I can say that we are looking forward to the upcoming 3 one-day internationals and 3 T20s matches between the two countries. We are prepared well and are looking forward to the competitive series.
And with that, we conclude this edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.